The world of My Hero Academia has a colorful cast of villains, and among them, none is more powerful than Tomura Shigaraki. He rose from simple but tragic beginnings to become the protege to All for One. Shigaraki has become the ultimate antagonist of My Hero Academia, a dark reflection of Deku, hellbent on destroying the very structure of the world's hero-focused society. Last we saw of Shigaraki in the anime, he was undergoing some kind of experiment. Whatever it is, it's sure to make Shigaraki more powerful than he was before. Manga readers already have a good idea of what happened, and this video is going to be all about Shigaraki and what happened to him next. So be warned of manga spoilers for My Hero Academia. For a start, let's begin with Shigaraki's original quirk, that being decay. It is a deadly version of the old myth of the Midas touch. Only instead of everything he touches turning to gold, whatever Shigaraki touches rots away. The instant his hands come in contact with something, the decay begins, with deadly results. But the decay quirk only takes effect if all 5 of Shigaraki's fingers touch his target, so he has to be careful whenever he grabs something. Now, after the experimental surgery we mentioned before, decay has gotten powerful in a lot of interesting and new ways. For starters, Shigaraki seems to have full control over it, meaning he doesn't have to worry as much about accidentally using decay anymore. Decay will only activate when he wants it to. Now, the sheer power and scope of decay is beyond anything we've seen before. This is best seen with Shigaraki's destruction of Jaku General Hospital. Here, he unleashes his newly upgraded decay quirk and in a matter of seconds is able to destroy not only the entire hospital, but parts of the city surrounding this. Now, decay works almost like some kind of infection. It spreads out from the point where Shigaraki touched, and it just seems to keep growing, destroying anything in its path. This attack manages to kill several pro heroes, and by the end of it, Shigaraki is left standing in the middle of a massive crater where the hospital used to be. The experiment Shigaraki underwent also had several other effects in addition to upgrading his decay quirk. Shigaraki's strength, durability, and speed were all massively enhanced by the surgery. His newly upgraded physique puts him on the superhuman levels that few can compare to, perhaps even putting him on the same level as All Might in terms of strength. But Shigaraki's new strength comes with some severe drawbacks as well. See, the modification process was interrupted before it could be finished, so now Shigaraki has to be extra careful with how much strength he exerts. If he pushes himself too hard, his body will literally tear itself apart. He has other quirks that counteract this, but it's still something he has to be careful of. Speaking of those other quirks, let's get into them. Shigaraki has more than just decay when it comes to quirks. In fact, he's got a lot of different tricks up his sleeve, thanks to the power of All for One. He inherited this power from its user, the original All for One. This quirk allows the user to steal quirks from anyone. What this means is that any quirk in the world could potentially become Shigaraki's. However, All for One isn't all positives. Having access to it comes at a great cost to Shigaraki. We'll get into that cost in just a moment. Right now, though, let's go over all of the quirks that Shigaraki has had access to. That way we can assess just how strong he is. One of the strongest new quirks that Shigaraki has access to is super regeneration. As far as superpowers go, it's pretty classic and pretty strong. Some American superhero characters with a similar power are Wolverine and Deadpool. With super regeneration, Shigaraki is able to heal from injuries almost instantly, a power that All for One himself didn't even have, as evidenced by his original disfigured appearance. Sure, he's still able to get injured, even pretty grievously, but those injuries always heal in a matter of seconds. He's even able to withstand Endeavor's powerful flames. While super regeneration doesn't offer much in terms of combat, it's still incredibly valuable. Since we don't know the limits of it yet, it seems that Shigaraki could keep fighting and automatically healing himself indefinitely. One of the quirks stolen with All for One is the quirk known as Search. This one originally belonged to pro hero Ragdoll before it was taken from her. What Search does is allow Shigaraki to look at up to 100 targets and essentially track them from a distance. The targets can be seen through anything in the way, and Search also lets its users find weak points in their targets. Additionally, when Search was stolen from Ragdoll, it kept all of the information about the people Ragdoll had used it on. So Search already comes with information about Deku, Bakugo, and many others. So that means Shigaraki can track them all down with great ease. Now, let's take a moment to go over a few of Shigaraki's combat abilities. All for One gives him access to quite a few quirks. Two of Shigaraki's quirks that work in tandem are Air Cannon and Spring-like Limbs. Air Cannon allows Shigaraki to shoot large waves of pressurized air, and Spring-like Limbs lets Shigaraki coil up his arms to store extra strength before an attack. By using Spring-like Limbs, he can make the destructive force of his air cannon even stronger. The last of Shigaraki's powers we'd like to touch on isn't exactly one specific power he has. It's a powerful group he has complete control over, the Nomu. If you're not aware, the Nomu are essentially superpowered zombies created by Dr. Garaki. They're corpses that have gone under experimental modifications so that their bodies can have multiple quirks at once. The Nomu can't exactly think for themselves. They're little more than mindless servants to whoever controls them. And in this case, that would be Shigaraki's Paranormal Liberation Front Shigaraki can deploy to fight for him whenever he wants. With all of these powers, you would think that Shigaraki would be unstoppable. But like we've mentioned earlier, All for One isn't all positives for Shigaraki. The more powerful Shigaraki has gotten, the more he's lost contact with his own humanity. Currently, he is involved in quite a literal internal battle for the control of himself. Like we said at the beginning of this video, Shigaraki is a dark parallel to Deku in many ways. With Deku, One for All has a symbiotic relationship with him, but for Shigaraki, All for One is more like a parasite. Shigaraki is engaged in an eternal battle between his own consciousness and All for One. His mind is merging with a small part of All for One that was given to him when the All for One quirk was transferred over. All for One reveals that if the merge is complete, then that the result will somehow be both of them, yet neither of them. This whole time, Shigaraki thought he would be the one to replace All for One, but it seems that All for One really isn't gone. But there still seems to be some small spark of hope for Shigaraki. See, he was born under the name Tenko Shimura. As a kid, Tenko was a lot like Deku. His dream was to become a pro-hero. His grandma even turned out to be a pro-hero herself. She was even the one to wield One for All before All Might. But due to some unfortunate events in Tenko's life, he fell down a dark path until All for One found him and gave him a new name. We've had some glimpses into Shigaraki's mind throughout My Hero Academia, and it seems that deep inside Shigaraki's mind, there is a part of him that wants to be saved. That part is represented by his childhood self, Tenko Shimura, but whether or not he'll be able to save himself or become fully consumed by All for One remains a mystery. With My Hero Academia's 6th season here, it seems that we'll be seeing more of Shigaraki and his unbelievable powers in the anime. Kind of exciting, isn't it?